Hello and welcome to our review of Veronica Mars. This week we're discussing the episode Silence of the Lamb. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this episode originally aired January 4th, 2005. So, quickly, we're going to recap the couple of games that came out in 2004 that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. Don't worry, there's not very many. December 15th, if you had a GameCube, you could pick up Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2.
Yes, with the whole fighting series starting off from there. I don't think it was the case until 3 came out where it really became such a thing.
I I've played one of them, but I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
December 20th, if you had a PC, you could pick up Cave Story.
Yes, though I'm not exactly sure if it's the one I think it is or if it's something different, because I know of one.
There's been a couple of re-releases, and I guess technically a sequel for it. I think it's technically a sequel that was on the 3DS. But yeah, it's a little kind of Metroidvania platformer kind of thing.
No, if it is that, yes. Marvelous case of small little game that came out, had one heck of a following, and it's around, but hasn't really been too much within the public eye. But no, nevertheless, it is good for what it is. It definitely stamped the gaming history for particular things, and especially kind of allowed a particular genre to exist.
Yes. December 22nd, if you had a GameCube, PS2, or Xbox, you could pick up NFL Street 2. Which is a game I'm sure David's never played, but this was actually a personal... I wish they would bring these games back because they were so fun.
It would be understandable, though I do apologize. I'm not sure if it's just the couple things that have happened this week or the other couple things. That was a basketball game, right?
No, NFL is football.
Okay, it is football. My
Yes,
apologies.
but
Get the sports games mixed up.
they did a couple of the Street series covered different sports. So there was this one was the football one. They also did a basketball one, and they did a soccer one as well. And they were all really fun. And for some reason, they stopped making them in 2007.
The mild sadness. The supposed thing when the idea happens, nobody bothers to keep the idea alive.
Yeah, they were just really fun, arcadey sports games. Yeah, they were just really good multiplayer games.
Mhm.
Moving on, December 24th, if you had a PC, this little thing is going to come out that might kind of change PC gaming a lot. It's a little thing called Gary's Mod.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing. Kind of was a well, I'm not sure if it was a case of it first came out on this date and then was packaged with the rest of the stuff that used the particular things. I know there's a whole story behind it, but I'm not exactly sure on the details.
Yeah, I think 2004 is when it was early access or something. I don't think it was the full-on Gary's Mod that came out then. But, Gary's Mod is a big deal.
Yeah. And surprisingly enough, nothing I've actually messed with before. Something to think about.
Yes, absolutely. December 28th, if you had a PS2, oh, did you have a good new year? You could go pick up a little game called Gran Turismo 4.
Very much so.
Yes. You've never played any of the Gran Turismo games, I would assume.
There was possibly the one or two. I think some of the newer ones that my nephews picked up over the last couple of years.
Okay.
But still a case of I can understand it, see where the appeal lies, but it just was never something that happened with me.
That makes sense. Alrighty. Moving on to... there's no 2005 video games for this week, so moving on to number one song in America, Dave. Any idea what we were going... well, I wasn't listening to this in 2004, but what the mainstream was listening to in 2004. Or 2005, sorry.
Yeah, start of the year, heading into that particular stuff. Uh, Again, with a couple things that we've had, nothing is immediately jumping back to memory that would supposedly cause terrible headaches that I supposedly could think of. Like the only thing that I could think of is it's probably still a dance mix of some kind, but there's been so many. There's been so many.
Yes, I was enjoying Siren Song of the Counterculture. The average person was probably enjoying Let Me Love You by Mario. It's some R&B singer. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Apparently,
kind of the stupid case that my brain is kind of defaulting to the complete jokeified sort of thing that says with the words that you said. It's just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that something like this probably exists, but just the case of that's probably not what this song is.
no idea. Who knows?
Hmm.
Alrighty. Oh, that doesn't help us. That's the UK. Why did they give me UK box office? That doesn't help. Okay, so number one film at the box office this week, Dave. Any idea what it could be?
Nothing that immediately jumps to mind. It's just mostly the case of it's the start of January and hmm?
I would say that this is the type of movie that would do well this time of year. It's a comedy. Um, I want to say like maybe PG-13.
Okay, something like that. Because sadly, there's one particular film that I could say that was supposedly released in January, but that's still probably a couple good years off. Um, yeah, around that time. Yeah, nothing that I can immediately think of title-wise.
It was a little film that you'll probably remember when I say the title, Meet the Fockers.
Oh dear. Oh dear, yes. Kind of the marvelous case of family movie nights. Case of going to watch the particular films and whatnot. And oh yeah, this particular film and whatnot. And oh gosh, it was a thing. I don't think it was too much of a thing, but oh god, it was a thing.
This was a huge deal at the time. It did $522 million at the box office.
Yeah, that's understandable. Like, I think in comparison, like with how much uh, talent was supposedly within the film doing all the particular roles and whatnot, it was just kind of the case of, whew, it's Biggie.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a great cast. Like, you can't take that away from the film. Like, it's a phenomenal cast, but it's just. Eh.
It's the particular film at the time that meshed with the ideals of the audience also at the time.
Yes, it is a very 2004 2005 movie.
Yes.
Yes. Moving along finally to this episode. So, January 4th, 2005, we start off with Veronica talking to Keith about an old case involving a serial killer, the E String Strangler, who has made a rare appearance. Reappearance. Uh, Wallace also complains to her about the panic that's going through the town because of the killer. At Neptune High, Madison celebrates her birthday in haughty, regal style and invites only her rich friends to her upcoming party. Meanwhile, another student, Jackson, asks Veronica to research his parents' past indiscretions to gain leverage in their criticisms of him. Sheriff Don Lamb and the mayor of the town meet with Keith. After the conversation, Keith comes out and tells Veronica gleefully that he's going to start working at the sheriff's department again. But Keith says that it is only temporary, but he is getting paid his regular salary. Later, another student asks Veronica to find dirt on her parents. Sheriff Lamb and Keith explain the case to other police officers, but they have conflicting styles. Meanwhile, Veronica's sort of business takes off, and Cindy Mac Mackenzie notices. Mac proposes taking Veronica's efforts nationwide as a web-based business so they can both eventually have enough money for retirement. Veronica says that she'll think about it. At Mac's request, Veronica discovers that Mac's parents once sued the Neptune Hospital for $1 million. We later find out that it's because Mac was switched at birth with another baby. Keith and Sheriff Lamb visit a record shop, but they find nothing. Veronica visits Mac's house, and after refreshments are served by her blonde mother, shows Veronica her room. Veronica tells her that she was switched at birth with popular cheerleader Madison Sinclair. Keith and Sheriff Lamb talk to a suspect who leads them to a man known as the Worm, who is played by Aaron Paul, who responds hesitantly. Both of them think he is the killer, given that he had a guitar, which is not exactly the best logic, but whatever. Veronica.
Well, it's that and all the tapes that were on the table.
Yes, he was. He was filming. He was claiming to be a producer for a totally legally indistinct Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Veronica, Mac, and Wallace invite themselves over and crash Madison Sinclair's party. Mac looks around the house and meets her biological sister, with whom she connects. The new police officer tells Keith and Sheriff Lamb that the Worm's guitar strings match the strings that were used to strangle victims, which again isn't really evidence because they've already figured out that these guitar strings are very, just generic and everybody has them, but whatever. Veronica bribes the new police officer and steals the Lily Kane murder files with the help of Weevil, specifically the tip line call recordings. Veronica listens to the tape she stole and doesn't find anything until she hears a suspicious synthesized voice. Keith and Sheriff Lamb talk to the Worm, who had photographed both the victims. The Worm demands a lawyer. Veronica contacts Mac about the synthesized voice and tells her there was a reason why she was not switched back to the right parents. Mac goes to Madison Sinclair's house under the guise of looking for her purse. A woman went screaming into the sheriff's department reporting a missing daughter. Keith tracks Veronica out of fear for her. He finds Veronica and tells her about the missing girl. Keith breaks into the record shop he earlier entered with the man who had previously mocked him, we'll find out in a minute. Mac tells Veronica that she has decoded the message. Veronica eventually says that she knows whose voice it is. Mac sees her biological mom waiting in the car outside with tears in her eyes. She puts her hand on the window and touches her mom's hand through the window before her mom drives away. It turns out that the voice is Clarence Wiedemann's, the man who took unauthorized photos of her and who is the head of security for Kane Software. Veronica takes pictures of him and his family and sends them to him as revenge. We find out that the killer is in fact the guy who worked at the guitar shop, who thinks he's going to be a rock star even though he's pushing 40 and is still playing in a small town.
Yeah.
So, what did we think of this episode, Dave?
It was definitely interesting with kind of the different storylines that the entire series sort of goes through, with Veronica's school life and how the ebb and flow of all the particular stuff that happens with the cases or particular things affects her life, with the situation of, oh man, Veronica Mars can do detective work. Can you dig up some dirt on my parents? And her turning that into a business or getting particular stuff from there, as well as the interesting storyline of seeing the two opposite sides of the coin for Veronica and with Mac, with getting this particular information, Veronica knowing she could get it, but better to live in ignorance about it, but then Mac looking into it more and pushing to see more about what the heck was going on with it. And I think on the very interesting sort of case with the other line with Keith and the sheriff, just the case of, man, if he was back on the job and whatnot from there, it seemed like they would make a decent duo if he wasn't such a jerk. It's just man, you could make a cop show out of these two.
That's the thing. It's they would actually be good together if they could put aside the bullshit and work together.
So true.
Because they have such opposite styles that they actually mesh really well. Yeah, it's such a great thing where it's if you guys were just fucking adults for a while, you could actually be really good as a team.
And it's just the marvelous case of human beings. They can be adults for 5 seconds, and after that, it's just chaos.
Pretty much. Alrighty, so in this episode, we learn that Mac is not adopted, but was switched at birth accidentally, and would have been where Madison is, and Madison would have been with her family, which they do a really good job casting this episode too.
Okay, yeah,
because her biological sister, I'm I totally buy that's her sister. Like, just by looking at her and stuff, I'm like, you two look like you're related.
Okay with that. I'm not sure if it was a case of them going the extra step and either sticking within the family for particular casting or just the case of uh, who they had kind of all around or was able for casting and whatnot sort of meshed fairly well for the positions.
Yeah, and the mom, I'm also like, I totally believe that you're her biological mother, because you look close enough where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. And, like, they're not, as far as I know, they're not actually related. Like, they have different surnames and everything, so I'm assuming they're not. But
Doing a quick glance at casting list from there, and yeah, it's a case of good matchups and
yeah,
whatnot
they
from
do a
there.
really good job of making it believable that they're related. I'm like, I totally get that. I totally would believe that you two are, like, sisters, or that's your mom. Like, yeah, of course. Yeah, so I really like that, and that kind of adds an interesting wrinkle to what, that could lead to something down in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We also
And
find,
I guess the one last thought that I have with this particular episode is it's nice that even with particular things that sort of happen, there's still either good blood or particular things that can mesh in with that. Because just Weevil's Seed was marvelous. Just him coming in and
oh, into the cop,
helping Veronica with
yeah, where he goes into the police station and he's complaining about, like, there's heavy metal music being played in my neighborhood,
it.
and I'm
Yes.
like, hell yeah, there he is. I do love that Keith is kind of, like, surprised but also not surprised that Sheriff Lamb has never seen This Is Spinal Tap. Because he's like, that explains a lot, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you haven't seen This Is Spinal Tap, go see This Is Spinal Tap, because it's really fucking funny. And apparently it's getting a sequel?
After almost 20-ish years, supposedly?
Oh,
Or more.
well more than 20 years. That movie's from, like, the 80s.
Okay, around with those. Oh god, they're digging in the back rooms for all the particular films. Just random boxes like, how about this film from the 80s?
But yeah, I'm totally down for seeing a sequel to This Is Spinal Tap. Anyway, the other important thing that we find out is who gave the police the tip on to looking into Abel Kuntz as the killer of Lily Kane. We find out that it is Clarence Weedman, who is the head of security at Kane Software, and also the man who took unauthorized photos of Veronica with the target on her.
Yes, very much so. Also a mild case of, have we seen this guy? Or am I getting it confused with the multitude of actors within the show?
I don't. We've never seen a close up of him. I don't think. I think we've only seen, like, there's one shot where we see him, like, walking through a parking lot with, like, an umbrella up and stuff. But we haven't. He hasn't been, like, in a major scene or anything. It's just been like he's been seen, like, very far away and stuff like that.
Okay, those sort of cases of keeping the reveal close to the chest until the moment comes.
Exactly. And Veronica takes pictures of him and his family and sends them to him, which causes him to freak out, which ends the episode.
Another marvelous cliffhanger.
Yes, yes. So yeah, this was a fun episode, I thought. I thought it was pretty good. It's fun seeing Jason Paul. Jason Paul. I totally Aaron Paul play a bit of a creep here when I'm used to seeing him play Jesse Pinkman. You've never seen Breaking Bad, have you?
Like little bits, nothing within the entire series of an episode or any sort of thing like that. But I know of the work that he's done and how much he's kind of done in this case of, I remember you. This role
Yes.
seems to fit.
Yes, I thought it was fun seeing him in this in quite an early role. Anyway, next week, if there's nothing else, we will be discussing the episode Clash of the Tritons. Now, you might be asking what a Triton is, and you will find out next week. However,
Yeah, I understand.
a little bit of a tease for next week. In this episode, Veronica is framed for creating fake IDs, and she sets out to find out who the culprit is. Meanwhile, the school guidance counselor, Rebecca James, interviews the people who were most affected by Lily Kane's murder, and Logan's family drama continues.
Because of course it does.
If there's one thing this show does, it's continue drama. Alrighty.
It's kind of its MO as the series it's kind of has.
It absolutely is. Until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.